Moi everyone and welcome to Finnish Plate. A sandwich cake or a savory cake is a Finnish summertime classic that's often served in gatherings or maybe graduation parties, any place where you need to feed a whole bunch of people, but it's summertime, so maybe you don't want to heat up the kitchen too much. I have here a bit more classic version of ham and egg filled sandwich cake, plus an individual smoked salmon filled one that is done in the style of a New York City lox bagel. So join me and I'll show you how to make this Finnish summertime classic. Sandwich cake can take many forms. A lot of times it's filled with smoked salmon, whether it's cold smoked or hot smoked, maybe some cold cuts. Even though I've seen recipes that call for chicken, for example, most often it's filled with something that you don't need to cook because it's summertime. You don't necessarily want to heat up the kitchen, so it's made with ingredients that require very minimal cooking that come pre-cooked, like the salmon, for example, that you can buy from the store. I have here a whole host of different kinds of ingredients. It may look like a lot, but don't worry, it'll make sense in a few moments. So first, let's take a look at the bread here. I have here some white sourdough bread. So I prefer bread that has a little bit of texture, a little bit of bite to it, and I tend not to use bread that is very soft and very airy because it will actually get lost with the filling. First, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a whole bunch of bread and cut off the crusts. And try to make the pieces about the same size. So just like with cake making, you can really let your imagination run wild here. I'm sure everybody's seen cakes that have been decorated really pretty, have all kinds of different toppings, fillings. Same thing here, same thing with the sandwich cake. You can really make them look really pretty. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few slices of the bread and just cut them in half. Now let's make an egg salad filling. I'm going to take a couple hard-boiled eggs and I'm just going to crush them with my fork. Oh, look at these yolks. They're very bright colored, aren't they? And in here, I'm just going to mix in some mayo and some hot dog relish. This is actually just pickled relish with some mustard in it. You could use pickles too. And we will just mix this up. Taste it, see if it needs salt. Maybe a little bit. Just a pinch. And some pepper. So what we'll do is we'll lay a couple of pieces of bread end to end like this. And I have here some shaved ham, which I am just going to distribute across the pieces. There's no need to make the layers really massive. What you can do is you can just add more layers instead. So now we're going to add another piece of bread. And we're going to assemble this like we are laying bricks. So in the same kind of pattern as with bricklaying. Notice I had two whole pieces on the bottom filling, and now I have two halves and a whole piece. So this way the cuts of the bread don't align. And now we're going to add some of our egg salad. Looks like this corner could use maybe a piece of ham underneath here, just to give it a little bit more. And now we'll just spread our filling, and we'll add another layer of bread. More shaved ham. There we go, and now we'll just press down on it a little. Now what I'll do is I'll just trim the edges, since the pieces of bread were not quite exact. So we will just cut off the edges like that. These pieces too, if I can. And now what I'll do is I'll take some whipped cream cheese, and we're going to frost this. Again, just like you would frost a cake. So now that the frosting is done, we're going to decorate this. So typically you would put a piece of something to indicate what the filling is on top. So in this case, because the filling has ham in it, we're going to put a piece of ham on top to indicate this is ham-filled one. I'll also use my egg slicer to make some nice slices of egg that I can put on to indicate that there's egg in here as well. Now let's slice up some cucumber. Just stick these pieces on the side. But before I add the pieces of parsley, I have here some cherry tomatoes. Let's add those in there as well. Because why not? And now we'll add a few pieces of parsley. So here we can see that even though my frosting was far from perfect, it doesn't matter, because the goal is to make it really pop out with colors and different shapes, so that you don't even notice the imperfections in the frosting. Let's see if we can get a couple pieces of ham to stick on the sides between the pieces of cucumber. Just tuck that in, tuck it in, and here we go. our sandwich cake is now ready. So most often you would serve these at gatherings where you have a large number of people you have to feed. So this is a good way to feed a lot of people because it can have a lot of layers, a lot of different things going on. But I was also thinking, why not make an individual one? First, we'll cut off round pieces from our bread. So I'll take a cookie cutter and just take pieces like that, which are pretty much the largest ones I can get from this bread. So now let's put a few slices of smoked salmon on the bottom. There we go. And on this layer, we're just going to add a couple slices of tomato. So on top of this bread, we're just going to add some cream cheese. In this case, this is whipped scallion cream cheese. Another piece of bread on top. Add a few tomatoes. And now a few capers. Another piece of bread. We're just gonna squish it down. And now again, we're gonna frost this like we frosted the other one. And now, of course, after frosting, we're going to decorate this. I have here some everything but the bagel seasoning. So we're just going to put some of that on top. And of course, we need to put a piece of smoked salmon on top to indicate that there's smoked salmon in this one. So we're just going to take a piece. Maybe a few pieces of scallions. And a sprig of dill, even though that's not necessarily typical of a lox bagel, but it'll still look nice. A couple of pieces of tomato, just for color. And some red onion as well. And here we go. The Finnish summertime classic sandwich cake. They're ready. One with ham and egg filling. The other one with smoked salmon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Finish Your Plate.